tickets?
And our newest
Here,
one.
hold your ticket.
You were one million too. Who did not get punished here today? Well, who wants a second? Oh, it's in the board. All right. Mine looks like birthday present. Somebody said it looks like a tugboat in the ocean. You have to turn it around.
Oh, yeah.
He went like that. Hang on to your glasses and your dentures. This is our roughest riding but most fun. Look at that.
to a little town called Neelyton, Pennsylvania, where the line stopped. And but in 1950s they pulled the line back to here, and then when our museum was started in 1960, this track was completely gone. It was just a roadbed. In 1962, we actually started relaying the track as standard gauge track to bring it as far as we could to Route 522. That took us until 2001, when we actually finished the track out to here. Being that we're all volunteer staff, no regular government funding or anything like that, it just sometimes takes a long time. But we are finally here, and of course this is US Route 522. One of the biggest questions we always get is, will you ever have a longer ride? The answer to that is probably no. Because of crossing US Route 522 and the logistics there, so probably not. So this trolley that we're riding on, for you folks that were on the first trip, you probably noticed a big difference in the ride. This car has only 4 wheels, so it's kind of like the Volkswagen of all trolleys. It's a very bouncy ride, but it's known as a touring trolley. This is what they would have operated in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And that's because the cars were smaller. They came from horse cars. Sometimes they actually outfitted horse cars to be used as electric trolleys. So that's what they had. But then as the trolleys their cities got larger, the trolleys got larger as well. And the next car out will be the orange car again, and you will definitely notice a difference in the ride. While this car looks like it was built in the early 1900s, it was actually built in 1929 in Oporto, Portugal. Somehow they were able to copy this design of car. It's known as a Brill semi-convertible car, because these windows would all raise up into this nice arched ceiling pocket. So on a hot, hot summer day, it would be a really nice, cool effect. Unfortunately, the window tracks up there are kind of worn, so rather than risk the windows falling down on somebody, we don't do that. But they replaced the open summer car, of which we can show you on a tour when we get back to the museum area. The Brill semi-convertible car replaced the open car. So we brought this car over from Portugal in 1967. One of our members was vacationing over there. So the trolley system asked, hey, that's a really cool old trolley. Can I buy one? And they said, yeah, sure, okay. So they did. Sent it over here to our museum. We've since restored it cosmetically about 30 years ago, which it needs more work there. But more importantly, mechanically, we actually lifted the car body off the wheels, pulled them out, redid the electric motors, the trunks, new wheels, all that. And so the car mechanically is in great condition. So we are not a private club in any way. We are all volunteers that do this on weekends, summer vacations, things like that, so that we can preserve the heritage of the trolley and show you visitors what it was like to ride a trolley 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago. This is a real electric trolley car. This is not a bus that they run at the fairs, at the carnivals, at the beach, where they say, oh, take the free trolley shuttle. If it doesn't run on track, and it doesn't have the overhead wire above it to collect the current, it's not a trolley, it's a bus. So next time you get on one of them, ask the guy, why are you calling this a trolley? It's a bus. Really get them wondering, like, what are you doing?
They can do some research.
Yeah, go home and do some research. What a real trolley is. So, as I mentioned, we're not a private club in any way. If you find what we're doing here is interesting, you can actually join and become a member, and you can actually do what Valerie and I are doing, operating the trolley, learn how to do that. If you have special skills, you can work in our shop, because that's how we get things done. When we get back, we'll give you a tour of the other trolleys that we have in our car barn, one, and also the unique car we have under restoration in our shop building. Anyone have any questions at all?
How often do you have to change them light bulbs?
What do we do?
How often do you have to change them light bulbs?
How often?
I got drop lights at home that wouldn't put up here with
Not
the car.
that bad. These are reproduction bulb, carbon filament bulbs, and if you think your light bulbs at home are expensive, these are about $10 a piece. So just to light this car up, it's a couple $100 just to light the car up and make it look pretty. But no, they last. I couldn't tell you the last time we actually changed one. So, any other questions at all? Yes.
Can I become a junior conductor?
Sure. You have to get mom and dad to come down though until you're 18. That's the hook. See, I've been coming out here since I was your age, and see what happened. I became president of the place.
Can I be a junior conductor?
Sure. And I'll tell you what. After we do this, we'll let you help with getting the car going on the way back. Now the trolley's at the end of the line. Most people went off and went to their destination, so the conductor would go through and flip all these seats, because they were pretty smart back then. All of these seats actually flip over. They're called walk-over seats, so that all the passengers can face the right direction to head back. So if you want to just step out into the side, middle of the car, you can do this side first, and then
Creek side first.
and then we'll switch and do the other
We're
side.
already facing that.
Watch, Ash.
Some of them might be stiff and cranky. Oh, everybody is already facing that way.
Okay.
Actually, most of them are facing that way.
Ash is like that.
Watch your finger.
There you go. Okay.
So now, you two guys that want to be junior conductors, you go up to Valerie and ask her, and I'd be willing to bet that she'll let you ring the bell.
Go ring the bell, ring the bell.
You always have to ring the bell before you start the trolley. And big kids, don't be embarrassed. I know you want to go up and do that too. You can do that as well.
Yes, all adults, I invite you to come up to ring the bells and
Don't be
also
embarrassed. You can do it too.
anything you can reach. We have another bell up here. So, all right, this one does not have a whistle, so we have two kinds of bells. One on the floor and the one that's from the passengers to tell us they want to stop, or from the conductor to communicate with the motorman. So if you want to stand, let's get in line, let's back up here. Only one of these works for the bell, and that's this one right here. And you remember how many to go forward? 2. Right, 2. All right, now tap it a little differently before you go. Watch. Maybe this will work. Ready? Tap it like this. Lift your foot up. Okay, very good. Excellent. All right. Anybody else? Adults?
Junior conductors, where do your parents and you live at? Don't say house.
All right. We just communicated.
Oh, that's a pretty far.
Mom and Dad are in Louisiana, so.
That's a pretty far commute. I live 3 hours away from here, so I thought that was bad. But Louisiana is bad. 20 hours.
Do it.
So how did you pick Rockhill first?
My husband's working here.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Backwards.
Keep taking turns bringing different grandkids.
Is
Okay.
now
Well, that
up in the
works.
back. Did you see when I had to walk the
couches.
pole around on this? So by doing that, I'm still pulling the pole, but now that's the back. We were talking about this before that. So I need to use the radio to clear with you. All right, then I have clearance from our
I guess
dispatcher
it's cold. with the
and
clothes on.
our conductor also, and he told me it's okay.
I'm a junior. Why the doors?
Doors? It's pretty hot, so we'll leave them open today. But in the cold, in the wintertime, it's nice when the doors are closed.
They have, when it's cold, they close.
Hey, you know how we had a snow day? When we had snow at home, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that. Yeah, that snow and ice. They have that every day.
Yeah, not just once.
Not just
5
once.
years.
Every 5 years. Maybe like once every 7 years. We actually have real snow for the first
Yeah,
time.
we did.
Yeah, they have snow all the time.
Wouldn't it be cool? Yeah,
Yeah, it does take a long time for snow at home. But you know what? I like to stay at home. The snow's too cold. I like one snow day. Then it's too cold. You like that? Is it fun?
Hey, just hold on.
I mean,
We are right on the edge of Alto siding. That's our only passing track. And we do special events there. We really like to do that, but it also enables us to be able to run more than one car. In fact, we can operate, I think we've had as many 6, 7, 8 cars out at a time, depending on what we're doing. But it allows us to pass each other or even stack up several cars or 2 or 3 cars anyway, on either side to let the others pass. While we are here, we're in a little wetland, and one of the fun things I mentioned is all the wildlife we go through, which not every trolley museum can do, or trolley system, but this allows turtles, lizards, snakes, and so on to go back and forth. And another reason we stop here is they like to go to our slag piles here, which is the byproduct from making iron at the old iron furnace that we passed, and we'll be stopping there again on the way back to explain it a little further. You'll see that right in here, there is some black also with the slag. The slag is the byproduct that floats to the top, is hard, has no mineral and nutrient value. Can't even be used for roadbeds or to make concrete because under pressure it breaks down the powder from the iron. So it's useless. If you find a use for it, I think Mr. Cavallo would probably pay you handsomely if you could, because over many years no one has succeeded. However, also in here is the bony. That's the black stuff you see mixed in and along the edges. Bony is what's washed off the coal after it's mined. So when you're shipping it out, you're selling a certain grade of coal, but all that powdery stuff needed a place to store as well. And in recent years, in fact, there have been methods to burn it. So Mr. Kowalczyk had mountains of black bony behind where our car barns are, for example, and he sold them in 2008 and 2009, and they took it out by truck because it could be used to fuel for certain manufacturing products. Do you remember what the products are? Ron, my husband, can tell you the whole story about that. But it found another use, so they sold the coal again. Only they sold it as bony dust. It's like a black dust. But what do the animals like about this black dust? It's not just pollution, it's a great bed site for turtles to nest because the black keeps the heat and it allows the eggs to hatch. So we have several kinds of turtles here. I didn't see any today yet. Did you operating see any today? The last few weeks we've had at least 1 or 2 turtles, so most of them have been about that big around or so, which is a pretty standard size for box turtles and wood turtles. We saw a rarer turtle a couple years ago. I picked one out. It was a painted turtle. It used to be common in Pennsylvania. It's no longer common. And if you turn that over, you'll see all kinds of red and yellow striping on it. The painted turtles are beautiful, and we did have one family of those here. We haven't seen it this year. However, the most unusual one was a map turtle. A map turtle's leathery, sort of flat, lives in the river, the Juniata River. It came from the Lewistown area up to Mount Union, and they used to nest in the bony piles there. That was owned by the East Broad Top Railroad as well, from their coal mining. And then PennDOT put a bypass in, and it blocked the turtles from getting up to nest. And they didn't know why. Hundreds and hundreds of turtles, they didn't know what happened. So PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, did a study. They found out this is a rare and becoming endangered turtle, and they had to stop the production until they could put some kind of remedy, and they put a fence along so that the turtles could not get on the highway. And so that resolved that, but we think that may be why we saw a map turtle up here a couple weeks ago on the point right behind where Joel is standing. There's some points on a switch there, and here it was crossing the rail instead of going under like we have in some places here. It was up on the rail right at the point going down, and some of our passengers took pictures of it. They took some of the passengers of that. So very interesting. The slag is like pumice. I will just show it to you. We don't want you carrying it off or getting it dirty or getting your cars dirty or anything. Although I'm sure if you wanted some, he'd let you have carloads and truckloads of it. But it feels like pumice and looks like pumice, but it falls apart. Yeah, and they're very pretty. You get it walking around. It's even in our driveway and parking lot, whatever, if you want to take some. I have a couple pretty pieces in my garden. Yeah. Did you ever feel slag before? It's fairly light. I don't think it doesn't float like pumice does, but it's very light.
You know, it didn't run, but since then,
Try and break it.
One of the lizards that loves railroads. Move up or back a little. All right.
Yeah, I can see.
Well, the main thing is we're looking at those brick towers. This is the old ROCKHILL furnace. It is the iron furnace that used the iron from the iron mines we just passed. You may have seen the mountain when we went through the narrowest point, and then we came a little further. There was some water coming out of the mines and down under and into a meadow where it filters itself out and comes out clear into the creek. This was the second furnace. The furnace was built about 100 years after the American Revolution, if you think of that, 1776, 1876. So you think in 1876 we were ready to have an iron furnace here. And Pennsylvania was full of iron furnaces, but also lime kilns, brick manufacturers. Mount Union had 3 brick manufacturers. They were the largest producer of fine quality fire brick in the world. They also had a black powder company. All of those manufacturers had at least 650, and at the highest point of the one brick yard, they had over 1,200 employees. Now think each of them had families, and all the other industries, there were 3 of those running. We had the East Broad Top running, which had about 650 employees, and this iron furnace had about 650 employees. So there's a lot of people here. It was called Little Chicago. No fingers hurt. Everything's okay.
I didn't want to break the glass.
Have to be careful there. These are, did he mention this is a semi-convertible? So in the summer, this was an open car, and all the windows came up and then went up into the ceiling, so you had a fully open car except for the very bottom part. So you have to be careful, though. Don't hold your hands and fingers in the way of a window if you're messing with the, or, you know, manipulating the little handles. So anyway, this was a little Chicago industrial area. And think, the first furnace, this was the second one, higher technology. This one used coke and coal. The first one across the creek used wood and charcoal. And of course, by the time they got into using coal, there were no trees around here. So you can, I'm going to keep referring you to look at the display, a very small but very good display in the museum store, and it shows it actually operating, and it looks like it's an aerial view. But that's because there were no trees anywhere to be in the way, and they actually took it from on top of one of the hills around here. So anyway, if you look at the building there, you'll see that those 3 brick pillars were part of that middle building to the bottom left corner of the drawing. And that was the powerhouse, and it actually has a floor down in the ground, and it was 3 stories high. And then on the left, it had the air, it was re-pushing through heated air. So we used the reheated air so that it had a higher, more even temperature to melt out the iron ore. It was more efficient than the other ones that didn't have that. Each of those air compressors were, they say, as big as a trolley car. I understand as big as like 163 or bigger than this one possibly. So the tall soda can structures there was a little elevator behind it, but that's where they fed in the mineral, the iron ore, the neutral medium that was limestone, which was quarried just here at the end of our track. And it's still being quarried today there. It's like blue like our ballast stone. And what am I missing? Oh, and the coke. The coke was made here too, and there are beehive ovens in the photograph in the store, but here in the woods, you can't see it. We don't recommend you go there. There's snakes and mosquitoes, greenbrier, poison ivy, poison oak. You just don't want to go there this time of year. If you do want to see it, maybe make arrangements to come in the early spring or late fall when the leaves are off the trees, and then you can see all the coke ovens. So they put all the ingredients in the 2 soda cans, and it melted out at the bottom. The slag floated to the top. You saw what the slag looks like rather. And the iron ore went out in a sand trough that had little troughs off of it. And so it became called pig iron because it looked like a mother sow pig nursing her little piglets. And that's where the name pig iron came from, not from, I understand, any other reason. Like there were no pigs involved, to be exact. So anyhow, the back building stored all kinds of materials, raw materials, and everything that they needed to continue the furnaces. They alternated sides because you couldn't stop. It was 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Some people like to say they had off for Christmas, but I can tell you they did not give anybody totally off, because anytime the furnace would stop, it would solidify. They had to keep it going. And then they kept one side going while they regenerated the other side and repaired it. And then when it was ready to go, they would switch sides. So it was an ongoing, continuous process. You're sitting here, think of yourself being here 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, and this whole area is black. Why do you think it would be black? Smoke, everything. If you were sitting here, black lung was common then, but these people were all glad to be here. They had good jobs, relatively well paid, and they worked here. And their kids went to school here, and their families were raised here. And then their children did too. But it was not what you think. It wasn't beautiful like it is now. There weren't a lot of trees. The sky wasn't blue. And you'll see in the photos it looks dirty, but that's because it's smog. Do you have any other questions? All right.